Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review Euphoria, Season 1, Episode 3. So, it seems that in this episode, I'll be honest, I'm gonna go on and say here that, because there's some times where I don't know if it's gonna hurt anyone's feelings or whatever, but I like to just be brutally honest about things. Uh, this episode, of course, is to narrow down exactly what their target audience is in this show. And evidently, episode 3 is to really showcase that. Like, what obviously is their target audience for the show, which is maybe at some point, hey man, we're still surprised that this show is even out. Because that might be this show. So, episode 3, we end up going into some manhood size shaming, or some manhood just overall etiquette of how well kept a picture of somebody should be when they are actually putting out this photo saying like, oh, they have a clean background. Oh, they measured it using some bottle. Oh, they... There's going to be some stuff that I actually cannot say in this review, and so there's reasons for that. Really, the whole thing of the whole Johnny Unite thing, I'm not going to talk about. You can go and watch the show and see those parts and whatever. I'm not even going to react to them because I'm just like, no. Like, oh, it bothered you. Oh, it got to you. I could care less. This is a guy that has gone on and reviewed a number of things that can no longer be reviewed, or reviewed the way of which that I used to do them. And so, to me, I'm just like, okay, this is just another thing of which that I'm just going to go on and eventually just plow through at some points, metaphorically speaking. So, with that said, the beginning of Kat's story in this episode, I'll say it, I'll be honest, I liked the beginning of Kat's story in this episode. Because, of course, that's kind of an easy thing to trigger me to be like, ooh, I liked this. To the point of me wanting to kind of see, Kat's character, even with the stuff with Johnny Unite, and whatever, I still want Kat to be a successful, happy character in this show. Which is weird to say, but, if anything, Kat is slowly but surely becoming, weirdly my favorite, and she shouldn't be, because of some of the other stuff that she also does in this episode. But, at least that her character seems much more creative than Zendaya's, in all honesty, Rue's character. And it seems like we're continuing on between the Nate and Jewel story, and it seems like that's there's a lot of points in this show where I'm like, man, they waste so much time. In all honesty, there are points in the show where I'm just like, man, they can only do one thing in this show. And that's all they can do. There isn't really a good enough story. It's just, hey, just plot this. And you know what? I'm being honest. I'm not, offended by what they're doing. I'm not at some points just going oh, well, I don't like that they're blah, 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 blah. Content can be content. Anybody can do anything. So really, when breaking it all down, it'll be interesting to see what the next episode delivers, because it'll probably be a vastly different variety uh, of whichever. So going into this, I think that's all that I want to say about this in a very cryptic like sense for this episode. I think I'm just going to go on and do the best that I can to go on and describe this episode to you in spoilers, because we're going to do some curving around and some adjusting and whichever, and we're probably not going to say some points and parts upon this episode. Go ahead and check it out at HBO Max if you wanted me to go in grossly in detail about whatever. I can't for reasons, because I've dealt with that kind of stuff before. So with that said, let's go into this double five time territory. Let's go out of our way to say this show is weird, but by golly, it's a show nonetheless. Um, it's so weird. It's so out there. It's so just, what is this show? I'm so like, oh my god, it's weird. It's too weird for me. No, it's not. I have seen the freaking weirdest movie in my life, and there have been so many of them. And so that compared to this is like, that's like numero uno one of weird, where this is just kind of like the kiddie table of weird. So yeah, I've seen too weird of a thing to now just go on. And like, I've seen a movie where a guy is all of a sudden doing a thing to a woman, and all of a sudden his tongue is to all of a sudden come out like this long stretch of a thing. And like that, I was like, okay, like I just single-handedly watched that movie because of that scene, and then I didn't watch the rest of the film because I'm like, I need to see this somehow. I don't know how I got to find out where this thing existed, but I went on to that movie just to watch this scene. I think it was on some trailer of some app somewhere, and then they were showing that scene, and I was like, oh my god, what is this? And how can I see it? So yeah, I've seen some weird and wacky stuff. So with that said, let's go out of our way to say that it is spoilers. We'll just spoiler time. Yeah, we'll just do it this way. So what should I cover? I think since the story is to be a cat episode, I think that's what we'll focus on. So in the beginning of this story, we have both Jules and Rue kind of hanging out together in a bed. They're kind of just sleeping it off. And Rue is to transition to tell us a story about Kat here, where Kat had gone on to Jamaica, and she, of course, was drinking a bunch of virgin pina coladas, or I think it's what, I think it's what that was called. So Kat went on and to drink supposedly 70 some odd things of these, and so because Kat went to Jamaica and she didn't go into the beach because and swam, because she went and tried to go into the beach, and I guess she ended up getting attacked by some fish. I'm assuming it looks like it looked like either a crab or a jellyfish. Not quite sure. Um, so Kat then goes and is to just kind of lay alongside the beach and drink her virgin pina coladas, and so Kat evidently was to when she was at school, she of course ended up kind of finding this guy named Daniel. Daniel was a guy who seemed to really start to fall for Kat regardless of how she looked. He just liked her, which is nice. So, it's nice. So, eventually, once Kat was to be done with her Jamaica vacation, uh, sounds like I'm talking about a Chevy Chase movie. Yeah, her Jamaican vacation, where she went on and had a bunch of hijinks and National Lampoon's Jamaican Vacation. Anyways, so Daniel is going and telling Kat that she can't, or that he can't wait to see her again, and so Kat had decided to go on to this weight scale and realized that she had gained 20 pounds from this vacation. And I'm like, well, yeah, like a lot of people like struggle with their weight. Like it's a common, like that's kind of the whole uh the humanity story of it all is just like everybody used to struggle with their weight. There's even some guys who are to go on and be bodybuilders that go into a hospital and be weighed, and they're called obese, weirdly, because uh, their muscle mass is to be so like a big part of their body to where they are to be written off as these heavy guys when they're pure muscle. They only really have like very few actual things of body fat. And so I just find those stories just so bizarre when this person is picture of perfect health, but not to a doctor that I say, well, yeah, but you're X amount of weight, and it doesn't matter what kind of muscles, how big of muscles you are, and so on and so forth. So I just find those stories ridiculous. So we go on and we have, because like some people can't get insured because they're hugely muscular, but again, they weigh a certain weight. But why am I going far into this? I'm just saying for some people, there's always the opposite spectrum of things. So Kat goes on and is to, of course, be very worried about her, about the 20 pounds that she had gained. Clothes isn't fitting, and yeah, like that sucks. So Kat goes on and she is trying to hide the fact that she is to, of course, gain weight. I'm like, well, that sucks. Like, yeah, I feel bad. So it's like, aw, no, don't aw me. Don't aw me. Kat goes on and is to make it to school to see Daniel, and Daniel's just like, why are you wearing like hoodies and sweatshirts, and why are you wearing them? And Kat's like, well, So Daniel and Kat go on into school, and like Daniel didn't have a problem with like why she's wearing what she's wearing, because I don't think Daniel was to see stuff like that as like this hindrance of just like, well, I'm gonna stop dating this girl because she's 20 pounds heavy. Stupid. It's stupid. So, aw, no, don't do that either. Kat goes on and she's in school, and all of a sudden she's getting a note being passed around that obviously is to like be from Daniel. Why didn't Daniel go on and give her this note personally? Why would anybody pass a note to somebody? There was a time when I was in school where there was like some guy who gave a note to me from some girl. And I was like, okay, this makes no sense. Like, I don't even know if I really want to believe this note. Um, and nothing ever happened from that. It's like, so it's like, okay, this was a waste of my life, sadly enough. Uh, that was a waste of my life. Aww. No, it wasn't. Kind of felt like that. Horrifically, I am an a-hole. That's okay. Hey, that girl could have... Nothing happened. There wasn't no like coming out of the shadows and like, oh, I sent that, whatever. Nothing. So that was just like, what was the point of this? What was the point of this note? Let's just like flush it down the toilet because nothing really happened out of that. So it was like a horrific waste and like getting your hopes up for no reason. Aw, shut up. Aw episode. Let's put the aw track. Aw. So, Kat goes on and is to find out from this note, because I'm not trying to eat up time here. Kat is to go on and find that this note is to say, hey, I'm breaking up with you. Daniel, peace out. A-Town. And so, of course, Cass... Was that even English? No, it wasn't. So, Kat goes on and is to have her heart, this thing called broken. And now she's to boo-hoo cry, because of course you would. Because when you actually probably have somebody and then they break up with you, get ready to have that happen a number of times. But Kat was like, this was probably her first love. Kat was to probably just be like, yeah, this guy and her are gonna go places, and then all of a sudden but we end up finding out that Daniel wasn't the one sending this letter. It was some other girl who sent this message around. What girl? Don't remember the name. Go ahead and check out the episode, and you can tell me in the comments so that we can have an extra comment, because that's always cool. But Kat didn't confront Daniel. Daniel didn't text her to be like, hey, that wasn't me. Sweet dreams, whatever. There was no closure moment out of that. That makes no sense. She didn't reconfirm with Daniel? Huh? Oh, whatever. So, we go on, and eventually we have Kat, who is to kind of turn around. And because she is to now be popular in school, it seems there's a lot of times where there's a lot of guys who go on and are to make fun of Kat in a way of which that I will not duplicate here, because those people and the way of which that they are to humiliate Kat. Hence why I like this girl. We have Kat go on and is to become popular via another means. Going on, and she is to create this fan fiction and is to go on and talk about these guys from One Direction, and I think one of the guys is Harry Styles, and the other guy is Louis. I don't know about One Direction. If you asked me about some other band from some other time from long ago, I would probably know who. Ask me about New Edition, I would know who those people are. Bobby Brown, Belle Biv DeVoe. I'm not very familiar with One Direction. I know I probably would know a band called BTS, but do I know their names? No. I know they exist. I know pop culture stuff, but anyways, so pushing on. So we have Kat, who goes on and does fan fiction and is to go and do a story about two guys who are to be this one night story. So evidently this girl had never heard of the Paris movie. One night in Paris. Alright, cool. So Kat, because of that story, had just exploded in popularity. 53,000 people had all really liked Kat's stuff, her fan fiction. And so nobody had really known who Kat actually was, because that's the whole point of fan fiction, is to possibly be anonymous. So Kat eventually is to go to school, realizing how unpopular she is, but realizing that there is 53,000 people that would probably go out of their way to defend her to the death against anybody that would slight her. That Kat could go and call to arms and have everybody armor up into their evidently Viking or caveman like gear. Not quite sure what exactly era of clothing that these people are wearing, almost like Game of Thrones style. Maybe no, like it seems more like Tarzan-esque, but why am I talking about this in so utter detail? People that are going on and chucking spears into people, they're dying off. They're like, "Oh, I'm dead." This was funny. This was cool. I like the whole fact that they're kind of really playing up this whole imagination thing, and I found that to be funny, and I found that to be cool. And so when all of a sudden Kat is to go on and finally reveal to all these 53,000 people that are all in caveman clothes that she is to be this cat woman, they're going and saying, "Imposter! Stab her with spears because she's lying to us." So, but then we end up finding out later that I guess some of Kat's 53,000 some odd followers are to also go on to her other website where she is to be doing some videos, let's just say, and they are to go on and say like, "Oh man, like this girl, dang, yeah, want me some of that," and so on and so forth. So because it seems like some of her followers had got to know that this was to be her, I guess, from whatever this is. So Kat goes on, and so she ends up becoming a person to then to want to go and do these videos. Let's just say for obvious purposes. So Kat goes on and is to do some twerking videos, where she is to, of course, wear this cat mask. And I'm like, oh, okay, so she's kind of one of those kind of people, I guess, who are to want to do these things, but do it with some privacy to go and mask themselves so they won't, of course, get revealed. Kind of like a lot of YouTubers who are big, massive YouTubers that never go on and actually you ever see their face. They never cam or whatever, where you actually see this thing called a mug, like HGO or H2O Delirious or Vanos Gaming or whatever. But then there's pictures of them online randomly somewhere. So we go on and have Kat going on, and it seems that there's to be one guy that is to consistently comment on one of her videos that is to start to ask for certain kinds of things. And so Kat is going and delivering those certain kind of things with feet videos or certain other kinds of videos. And so we have it to where this guy is to kind of talk to her and mention that, like, hey, I would love to go on and somehow do some kind of like meet up with you, go on and do some kind of video thing together where, like, meaning, because let me back up a little bit. Like, he means like doing a Skype chat. That's what he means. Like some kind of meetup kind of thing. It's not like doing a video. That's a completely different thing. And so I'm gonna like back that up because I was like, what am I saying here? Because what I was saying was not quite what happened. So the guy is asking for a meetup, and he says that he'll give her a wire, or what am I saying here? This guy is mentioning that he'll go on and he'll meet with her, and that he'll pay for her services. He'll wire her money. And so Kat is going on and trying to figure out if anybody knows about Bitcoin or how to wire money. And so we have Kat going on and meeting with Ashtray, who is the little kid that I know from Utopia. Grant! Big ups, man, big ups. Even though I'm sure you're probably not even watching this review because you're probably not even watching this. Like, you're doing the thing on the show, but you're like, no, I'm like, Grant. That guy is fairly young. Hopefully, he is to do this kind of stuff. But like, I'm hoping that like he's not actually like a part of it or watching it or whatever, because uh, he's a great guy, cool and whatever, but still, uh, why? As if like he's watching this video. So Kat is asking Ashtray about being able to transfer Bitcoin and wiring and whatever, and Ashtray is like, well, yeah, like that's the easiest way to get money. So Kat eventually goes and does this video with Johnny Unite and is to go and transfer Bitcoin to Ashtray, and she transfers $200 and he gives her 160, and she's like, 160? And he's like, well, yeah, that's the transfer fee, that's the banking fee. And so she's like, okay. Hey man, I guess you gotta make some money, I guess. You gotta make some to lose some, so to speak. So yes, we have like, so Kat goes on and does this chat, and I'm not going to talk anything else about that. Like, we'll talk, we'll not talk about that. I'm not even going to do it in comments or whatever. It's not going to, no, because eventually that goes into the whole like size shaming thing, which I'm not going to talk about. So now let's go in to talk about Rue and Jules here. So. Uh, I'm trying to think if there's anything left for me to go on about for Kat. No, I think everything is really just covered. So, Ruin Jules. So, Jules is going on and saying that she is to, of course, get a pic from a certain guy that she's been consistently talking to, who we find out is Nate. Because Nate and her are consistently conversing, and so Nate is going on and on, because he's still technically Tyler here, is going on and on about who he actually is, but every once in a while he's making up stuff, where he's saying that he doesn't have a dad, he just has a mom, and that his mom is really conservative. So we consistently have more and more where Nate is technically not telling the absolute truth, and we're kind of wondering what the heck Nate's real agenda is here. Why is he wasting time with this girl, even much more so than him actually having a girl to do more than just waste time with? Where this girl is going and just being with this guy, so to speak, and he goes off into a shower, and it seems that Maddie is kind of going through her phone, and she's going through her phone and she is a little confused. And then she goes on and talks to Kat about, like, is it possible that there's sometimes where guys is to look at kind of other things, so to speak, that Maddie is kind of seeing that maybe Nate is to be batting for both teams, maybe. There's a possibility of that. And so Maddie goes and talks to Kat and is to say, like, hey, you better swear on your life that you won't tell anybody about this, but I'll go and I'll tell you this. That's what I'm assuming that Maddie is technically telling Kat. Not quite sure. So, as really just Maddie is kind of going from behind with Nate, so to speak. Cryptically, of course, still in this bubble of things, but you know what I mean. So Nate goes out for a shower. So there's this one time where both Nate and Maddie are together, and like Nate's phone is just blowing up. You would have thought that Nate would have just told Maddie that Nate is a really popular guy and that he gets like texts, notifications from all of his friends and whatever. But Nate is to go on and say that he is getting texts from his dad. And so Maddie's like, well, how about I just answer the text, because you're getting like 15 texts. It's getting a little annoying. And so Nate's just like, oh, no. Like, I'll go on and I'll answer them. I'm like, isn't that kind of a red flag? Like, immediately, I would just, if I were Maddie, I'd be like, well, if I can't look at your phone, then over? Let's break up? Because, yeah, there's always that weird, goofy thing where, like, some people are suspicious of phones and whatever. And, like, there's a lot of times where, like, something suspicious about, like, oh, well, like, who's that texts you? It's like, it's my mom. Really? Is it your mom? Yeah. Do you want to see? do, do you want to see that it's my ma? It's my ma. Who else would it be? Oh, well, I don't know. It's my ma. It's mom. It's whoever freaking out of the small number of people that I have in my life, it's probably one of them besides you. But no, Nate is just like, yeah, I'm just going to put away my phone because I want to be suspicious. And Manny's just like, okay, all right, well, I guess since we're together. So yeah, so we go on, and we of course have uh, Nate, who's texting away with Jules without Maddie being sus about this. So we go on, and we eventually have Jules, who's thinking like, oh my god, this guy, like, we just spend so much time together, and we consistently see this kind of like cut screen between the two of them, where you see Jules on one side and Nate on the other, and like we have some weird Photoshop of a thing going on here. Like there's this one scene where like we cut and we have like half of Nate and half of Jules, which is so just weird at this point. Uh, so it seems that Nate is to supposedly send a pic to Jules, and this is of course a very private photo because it is a private part. So now we go on and we have Rue, who is to see this picture because I guess Jules is to just flaunt this picture out to everybody. So now Rue is going on and is to mention private part picture etiquette, really just showcasing how there might be some cases where there should be like a horrified thing, there should be a traumatized thing, and there should be a whatever. There's like three different steps of this for whatever goofy reason. One of them is horrified, where I guess there's to be one picture where some guys have a samurai sword or something in the background, where I guess you should be worried about that. Or there's maybe something of like man's keeping problems or whatever, that this guy maybe have some cleaning issues, so to speak. But yeah, so like there's weird, goofy things that they have to go thoroughly in depth about, and I'm just like, who just has to overthink this? I guess women do. I don't know. Like, why do they have to like categorize it and whatever? Like, to me, like, throughout a life, how many probably billions upon billions of these things are you probably going to see eventually? Uh, Not as if you're just going to be like going through people like their tissue paper, but like really how many things you have to be uberly crucial about. So Rue and eventually Jules are going and thinking, well, since Tyler here was to send this photo, I guess Jules should go on and do her own thing. And so we have it to where Jules is to want basically a Photoshop or photo shoot done by Rue, but to still make her look like she's still taking this photo. So I'm like, okay. Like, all right. But it seems like Jules is to have like Rue like almost being like a jealous lover, and Jules is to call Rue on about that. And so uh speaking of Rue, we also have to talk about her being drugged for 16 hours and then coming home. But we'll get to that. So Rue goes on, and I guess is to start to really confess that to Jules, as Rue is to make her way to Jules's place, because it seems that Jules is to go on and eventually need to uh, go and meet up with this guy, but it's at this carnival late at night. And so Rue is like, okay, that doesn't seem all that safe. Shouldn't you meet in a real public place where a lot of people are going to be there? And Jules is like, I don't know. Like he's kind of mentioning how justifying this, and Rue is just like, well, yeah, but this still isn't safe. But then Rue is to like, we have it to where these girls are kind of saying like love ya and stuff like that, but it seems like all like friendly kind of thing. But then Rue is to eventually go on and tell Jules how exactly she feels, kisses her, and then runs off. And so, like, I would have been like, sorry. So, really, here now, Jules, you already have a girl right in front of you. It's convenient. Are you going to go ahead and just continue to be with Rue, and then who cares about this other guy? Or what is going to go down here? Go down for real. So yeah, so like that in a nutshell is the quickest way to just go on and talk about the whole Jules situation. So like I think I can also go and talk about Cassie, how Cassie is going to some party with Chris and or McKay, and so Cassie's kind of coming or asking her friends what outfit she should wear to this party, and so it seems like both of them are kind of keeping it uh, kind of at a distance, going on and uh, doing some Skypes or doing some kind of other kind of texts and whatever kind of stuff. And so the girls are like, "Aw." So we go on, and we of course have Cassie and McKay go on to this party. Chris, um, and so at one point we have these fish being dipped in, I'm assuming, this alcohol, because it could look like water to me. And so guys are saying like, "Oh no, I ain't gonna be drinking that." And so all of a sudden we have both the girl and the guy, Cassie and McKay, that go on and drink these things. And like, "Oh my god, these people are the baddest out there." Whatever. So really, the only thing that Cassie's mother is to say before she has to go out to this party is that she needs to go to her dorm and or go to her place and have some clock with her face on it, as if this is some ransom photo. I'm like, well, you can adjust a clock. Like that doesn't really make much sense. You can adjust a clock and just have a picture being done. So that doesn't really make a lot of sense. But I guess it is whatever. So Chris dumps, of course, Cassie off after the party is all over. And so let's go and talk about the ruse stuff. So let's go and talk about that. I didn't mean to really leave that last. That was just kind of a convenient thing. So, so Rue had gone on to disappear for 16 hours, and because Fezco and Ashtray just kind of dumped really just Rue off. And so when Rue is to come home, her mother is, of course, asking, like, "Hey, where were you?" And Rue is like, "Well, I was at a friend's." And Rue's mother can't really trust her, Leslie. And so she is really to still, of course, want to take another P test. And Rue again is to have a plan of P, because she, of course, is to ask uh, Jules to go and basically pee in a cup for her. So again, the tests show that Rue is to not be with drugs, and so we of course have Leslie, who's like, okay, but like you're still on my watch list, you're still on my radar. So Rue is to go on and go to NA, her group, and so she is to go to this group for 60 days, but she hasn't been clean and sober for those 60 days. So she's just going there, I guess, to show to her mother that she is going on and doing this. But we have, of course, a guy named Eli who we end up finding out in this episode is Minnesota Fats. Uh, Minnesota Fats. I know a lot of people, especially if they've seen a lot of my episodes or a lot of my videos or whatever, every time I eventually will pop at something like that because there's a whole reason. So Eli, who is to be Minnesota Fats, is to go on and listen to Rue talking about when she's to get her 60 days. And so she's talking about that story and how she's talking about how she's going on and trying to do this for her loved ones and all this rigmarole that just feels to Eli like some kind of fed story that this girl is to really just convince people that she's sober when she's really not. Because Eli can whiff this off of her easily. So we go on and afterwards have Eli going and talking to Rue and saying like, well, hey, like, since you OD'd, that's the story you told people. Like, hey, like, because I was wondering if Eli was thinking that this person was lying about it. Because there's people that do go to these things and then lie, that their story wasn't at all that true. Like, look at the movie Fight Club, where we have Edward Norton going to all these things like uh, Men Together and all these kinds of cancer things, and he doesn't have any of this stuff, but he likes to go to these groups because he thinks if he goes to these groups, people will actually listen to him and not just wait to talk. So Eli is to go on and ask Rue about like the overdose story, going on and having Rue tell her that her younger sister, who was 13, found Rue. And so Eli's like, that's really interesting. So your younger sister, who is to immediately feel betrayed by you because you're older than she is, and she's going to have to clean up after you, technically. Man, you basically just effed that girl up forever. Basically, she's going to second guess every relationship that she's ever going to have. She's going to second guess everything for the rest of her life because of you. You basically effed this girl up. Good for you that you just messed up this girl's life forever. Thanks. Yeah, like I bet you didn't think of that when you're going and talking and still being under the influence, because we had this guy who can easily tell. And so Eli, of course, is going on here and telling Rue, it's like, well, hey, like, you're messing with Minnesota Fats here. And so, really, if you ever want to come to me and have some pancakes, then, like, we'll go and have some pancakes. We'll have a meeting. But until then, like, freaking, like, be more convincing, because you ain't convincing me. That you're clean, that you're sober, that you're whatever. Put on a better story than that. Oh, here's one thing, because I just saw this guy's photo and I just realized this. There's this one point where evidently Kat was going and doing this grapefruit for her lunch, and that's all she was having, because I guess she's going on this grapefruit diet. Good for her. We, of course, had the nurse lady who's talking about that. So Ethan all of a sudden is to come in, and it seems like Kat is having some trouble affording this grapefruit today because she is kind of like half of it. And so Ethan is to kind of swoop in and come in with basically the other half, which is like, hey, you'll get me later or whatever. There are some times where eventually, like, you are to be nice and conveniently have some side cash, and so there's some people that are just kind of like a dollar shy uh, from eventually going and having like going somewhere. There was like one point in time where like a girl was like shy, like a couple of bucks shy to go to some event somewhere. She's like, you know what? I only have like a buck on me. I don't think I'm going. So I was nice and like, well, hey, like, how much do you need? Because I have a couple of bucks and whatever. And so gave that to her, and then I regretted it afterwards. Never again will I want to borrow or whatever anybody real money when it comes down to that kind of thing, because really you're probably going to just regret it later. So that's a story for everybody. Never really borrow money to anybody because it's going to be just like, why did I do that? I was to be a nice person and feel like I was going to be rewarded in the end, but what a real waste of time that was. Uh, life lessons, everybody. The more you know. Ka-ching, ding, whatever, goofy things. So yeah, we have Ethan eventually meet up with Kat when Kat is to go into some store and buy some new clothes and to wear this kitty kind of collar on her necklace. So Ethan's like, okay, well, you look really different, as I guess Kat is to have much more confidence in herself. If she didn't already have it. So so yeah, so with that, we have at some point where Rue is going on a meeting with Fezco and desperately wanting drugs. And Fezco is to, at this point, just be like, no, you're cut off. Like, no, I don't want to, I don't want to give you any more. Like, this was like, this girl is kind of going on and basically being very pushy against Fezco, and so I can understand why now we have it to where Fezco is just like, no, done, nope, no more. Uh, and so we have Rue that's going into this this whole thing of just kind of begging, like she's going through like the 12 stages of grief, it seems, where we of course have her like begging, bargaining, and accusing, and there that's probably not one stage, but we have it to where she's like, hey man, like all I need is some like a couple little bit of whatever, and Fesco's like, no, like no more. And she's like, well, come on, like all I need is this little bit of whatever. And then she goes on and starts blaming him, the person who was to give her drugs. Like, of course you can't blame yourself. Of course not. Why would you go on and blame yourself for the drugs of which that you had been taking? No, I need someone else to blame in the world. I need someone else to go to and blame. Because heaven forbid I blame myself, right? For me and my addiction that I could stop at any second of any time. Yeah, this girl is probably going through withdrawals, and she can't even, like, when Jules is telling her to stop, we just have Rue who goes on and finds some other thing to get addicted to. Pills from Rue's place, or from Jules's place. And I'm like, good God. So this girl, like, she's going to end up like House, from that doctor show, House, where she's going to go on and try to figure out how to get her fix. What is she going to go and, like, huff glue? Or, like, is she going to go and find some spray paint and just huff that? Is that what she's going to be? So that way she can get her high, her fix, or whatever. Because I feel like this is where she's going to go to. And we're going to go through some weird avenues with this girl, I'm sure, to the point of her eventually going on and basically end up like that one girl on Requiem for a Dream, where we kind of see at the end of that movie where this girl is just selling her body to get her drugs, is where I'm assuming that this girl is going to head. A lot of people are like, oh no, that's not where she's heading, or yeah, that's exactly where she's heading, and I'll just like, oh, it's gonna end up that way one way or the other because we just have this girl who's dictating, and is to basically just say, well, like I'm gonna wait until I get my drugs, and so that's where we kind of draw the line of just like, well, no, like you're gonna be waiting a really long time, and hopefully you have a bottle of water, hopefully you have because you ain't getting these drugs. Every once in a while, you have a point when like people need to get cut off from something, and so evidently this is that point for Rue. So with that said, I think I'm going to cut off here and go on and say that that's about it for this episode. 50 minutes, and this was like 50 some odd minute thing. Hopefully I've kind of technically covered everything because there was some stuff where I didn't really go further into. But for me, I feel good enough about this one. If there is to be another thing that I forgot about or whatever, there's going to be a rebuttal in hand. But with that said, I think I'm good enough for this one. Uh, so yeah, so with that said, um, I'm trying to look through IMDb to see if there's anything left here. Don't think so. We had the one moment where Rue was with Gia, and they they were going on, uh, and Gia was mentioning about some guy that she's watching on some computer laptop somewhere. Speaking of which, Kat had gone on because she had been hurt by Daniel. She had gone on and watched a number of guys from a number of movies because she wouldn't be hurt by those guys. And so it's like I can understand that you wanting to go and kind of like escape into love stories and just like, man, I wish I could find a guy like that, and so on and so forth. And eventually you go and like you're just enjoying something, and that could be okay. Because at the end of the day, at least it's not going to land you into being pregnant. So, because we just have Cassie's mother that is so worried about Cassie becoming pregnant. It's like, you better not become pregnant. Like, you better, I don't want you to become pregnant. Don't like you have so much promise. You can go on to a number of things, so don't become pregnant. And like that's always the concern of a number of people. So with that said, that's it. I think at one point, like Kat was watching like Wings or something, and she was watching some other thing. I don't remember what it was. Maybe it was just Wings. I don't know what she was watching, but it looked like Wings to me. But yeah, so with that said, I'm gonna wing my way out here. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.